Hi everyone, my name is Tegan and I am a writing support specialist here at the NWP Learning Commons. Google Docs is one of the most used word processing apps I have seen students use for writing essays, so I wanted to go over some tips for how to format Google Docs to meet citation guidelines. I will be using an old essay of mine as an example of what your essays would look like if you used the default formatting in Google Docs. Margins. Whether you're writing an APA, MLA, or Chicago, your document should have 1-inch margins. Luckily, this is the default in Google Docs, but if you want to double check, we can go up to File and Page Setup, and we'll see that the margins are set to 1 inch all around. If you think you can edit these to make more or less room on your page for yourself to meet a page count, know that your profs will notice. For example, I've heard that some students have been losing marks for improper margins when writing in Google Docs. And you might notice in my example here that the space between my name and the top of the page is larger than the space between the start of my line of text and the left-hand side of the page. But we already checked that the margins were right. So why is this happening? Well, Google Docs has a default in its spacing that adds a space before and after every paragraph. If we look at my paragraphs, we'll see that there is space between them that I can't just start writing on. So we need to remove this, both so that my margins are actually 1 inch and to maintain consistency in spacing. So we'll need to highlight everything first. There are 2 ways that you can do this. You can click at the top of the page and drag the cursor to the bottom, or you can use the keyboard shortcut Control-A. Both will highlight the entire text, and then we can go remove the extra spacing between the lines. So we're going to go up to line and paragraph spacing under Format, line and paragraph spacing, and click Remove Space Before Paragraph and Remove Space After Paragraph. Double spacing in paragraphs. Right away, we see that this paper is not double spaced, so we can highlight the entire text again with Control-A, or by clicking and dragging the cursor from the start of the text to the end. Let's go back to those lines and arrows up here. This time, we will select double, so that the entire text is now in double spaced. Generally speaking, citation styles will ask that you have even spacing throughout your essay. That means that you should not hit enter between paragraphs, but my paragraphs do look a little cramped, don't they? So we'll want to tab our paragraphs. You don't need to hit the spacebar multiple times to create an indent at the start of your paragraph. Just hit the tab key on your keyboard, usually found on the left-hand side, starting the second row of keys. And we will go through and tab each new paragraph. And this tab is all that you'll need to help indicate that new paragraph and that new idea. Page numbers and headers. Now, we need some page numbers. So whether you're using APA, MLA, or Chicago, your page number will appear in the top right-hand corner of the page. To do this, we'll go to the toolbar and click Insert and Page Numbers. Now we want it in the top right-hand side of the page. And Google Docs is cool because it gives you an image. Now, if we are writing an MLA style paper, we are missing our last name. This can easily be added by clicking right in front of the 1 and typing our last name like so. Page breaks. First and foremost, the Works Cited, or reference list in APA, or Bibliography in Chicago, should be on its own page, even if you only have 1 entry, which I know looks weird, but it is really good practice for when you have multiple entries. Hit enter multiple times to move it onto a separate page, but this is inconvenient if we are still in the process of writing and editing our paper. To make life easier, we can create a page break. To do this, we'll click in front of the Works Cited title and go up to Insert and select Break, and then Page Break. You might also notice that there's a keyboard shortcut listed here, Control-Enter, which you may also use. Just make sure that your cursor is where you want that page break. Now, notice that I can write and hit enter as much as I like on this page without affecting that Works Cited page. Headings. I'll note here that formatting your headings by hand is easy once you know what each heading level should look like. If you've played around on Google Docs a bit, you might have noticed that under normal text here, there are heading options. These are easy to format, but know that you will need to change them to match your citation guidelines for headings. Hanging indents. Now for the scary hanging indents. These were really annoying to me in my first few years of university. You may have done the same thing I did for a while, which is to hit enter at the start of the second line of an entry and then hit tab. This isn't the worst thing you can do, but it can get tricky if you're using long URLs, not to mention it can be time consuming if you have a lot of multiple line entries. So let me show you a shortcut. Highlight all of the items on your list using click and drag. Then we'll go back up to Format, and this time go to Align and Indent, and then Indentation Options. Here we'll see we have the option to select a special indent, and we want hanging. And voila! Like magic, the entire reference list is now formatted for a hanging indent. And as a bonus, if you want to add a new entry, the formatting is all ready to go. Citation tool. If you have explored Google Docs, you may have found that under Tools, there is a Citations option that will let you choose a citation style and enter various sources. Use this with caution. The setup here still requires you to find the information that you need if you were to type the citation by hand. Because you still need to find the information, whether you need to type it by hand or use this generator, it seems a better use of your time to format the entry yourself and ensure the details are adhered to. However, if you do insist on using the generator, always double check your references, as any generator cannot guarantee perfect formatting. And remember that you can use our guides to help find the formulas that you need to fill out your reference list. Language. Now, this may seem like a small detail, but it can make a big difference, especially with profs who are sticklers for grammar. Word defaults to American English, and while it is very similar to Canadian, there are some spelling inconsistencies, such as whether color has a U or not. Or, in this essay, symbolizing is a good example. See how it's underlined? It wants me to change the S to a Z. Now, I'm pretty sure I can spell it with an S, so let's see what happens when I change the language to Canadian. I use Control-A to highlight everything, and then I'll go to File and Language and find English Canada. See how symbolizing is no longer underlined? Setting Canadian English as the default can be helpful, and the step is crucial if your prof specifies that you use Canadian English. Word count. Where do you find the word count in Google Docs? You're going to go to Tools and Word Count. Alternatively, you can use the keyboard shortcut mentioned here, Control-Shift-C. If I click on Word Count, I can also set it up so that I can see my word count as I write by checking this box at the bottom. The word count will appear in the bottom left-hand corner, and if I change my mind, I can hide the word count like so. Block quotes. Block quotes are used when you want to use a long quote. For APA, this is a quote over 40 words long. In MLA, a long quote is over 4 lines of prose or 3 lines of poetry. And in Chicago, use a block quote if the quote is more than 5 lines or more than 100 words. Block quotes should not be used often, but let's look at an example for the few cases you might use one. If we scroll back into the text and say, make this section a block quote. First, we will make it its own paragraph. Now we'll highlight our imaginary quote and click on this block up here with the lines and the arrow pointing to the right. And voila! This whole piece of text has now been indented as a block quote. Make sure that there is no paragraph indent at the beginning and that the following paragraph starts flush to the left. Title page. This example is in MLA, but if you are writing in APA or Chicago, you will need a title page. You may create a title page before you start writing, but if you add one after writing your draft, you can go to the beginning of the text, and like we did with the Works Cited page, we will add a page break by hitting Control-Enter at the beginning of our text, or going to Insert, Page Break. Now, information on our title page is typically centered. Again, the great thing about using the page break is that you can add new lines without affecting the next page. If you are writing in Chicago style, there is no page number on the first page, and the first page of text is page 1, whereas with APA, the title page is page 1. So how do you change this? So let's head up to Insert and Page Numbers. And we can see that there is a little icon with a blank top right and a 1 on the top of the second page. We'll click that. Perfect. We have a blank page in the top right corner of our title page and a 1 on the first page of text, which follows Chicago guidelines. Remember that if you're in APA, you'll want your title page to be page 1. Footnotes. There are two ways you can insert a footnote if you're using the Notes Bibliography style of Chicago. One is to go to Insert, and you'll see Footnote is right here. Alternatively, you can use the keyboard shortcut Ctrl-Alt-F to insert a footnote as you write. And that is all I have for this video. If you have any questions about writing essays, please reach out by making an appointment with our writing support specialist via the link in the description. Good luck with your essays, and happy writing!